Hello viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Camera Tuesday, we're gonna talk about Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro. So let's dive right into it. Now, one thing you have to understand, this is inherently on a core level Blackmagic 6K. Pro edition is just basically repackaging of the core hardware. Basically, the processor is the same, the sensor is the same, the codecs is the same, the frame rate is the same. Basically, you take the innards of this camera and you plant it into a new body. Now, the sole reason why this was done is basically they updated the camera body for this new year, and they listened to the customer feedback, because there were many things, and not to mention the competition in this price bracket is heating up. Like at this point in time, you can get some surprisingly amazing camera for surprisingly low amounts of price. And if Blackmagic, which was like, quote unquote pioneer of that industry, is getting much more stiff competition at this point in time, so they had to update the system. So they're under no circumstances anybody was complaining about the color performance or the sensor performance and all that jazz. They were like, dude, this is more than good enough. It's like, this is GG. This is like, it can actually compete against Red, actually compete against us. It's just like everything else around this was not up to the mark, and other companies were catching up. So that's why it was done. Now, what is the primary upgrade here? Now, primary upgrade here is to the ergonomics. Basically, they had like some weird, stupid designs, which, for example, was that you could have Blackmagic 6K, everything is awesome. You could have like one battery, which did not last long. So you were like, hey, what if I bought a battery bank? I'm saying basically battery grip, everything is awesome. Here's the problem: the battery grip was already there, it was awesome, but it used different batteries. So basically, you had to buy a Canon battery and Sony battery just to run the goddamn thing. Single camera had two battery formats. So fundamentally, that was a stupid engineering decision. I have no idea why they did that. So they have fixed it. So now what goes in the camera body versus what goes into the basically battery grip, they are same. So they are all Sony NP-F570. So that's awesome. So that means you only have to buy one. That makes it much more easier to keep charging. You will not be in a scenario, oh damn, my camera's in-body battery is dead, versus like, oh, the cradle batteries are dead. You don't have to worry about it. That's awesome. And they have designed the battery grip in a much more awesome way compared to every other company that does it stupidly. Like for example, Fuji also does it quite amazingly. It's like you have a battery in the camera body that's not being touched. You will not pull it out, you will not poke something in there. It's just like, dude, stay in there. That's awesome. You are there, awesome, keep it up, don't think about it. And then you can have a battery grip that is externally connected. Basically, they have electrical contacts outside. Now, what's the benefit of that? That means at any point in time, you can have upwards of 3 batteries in this camera. Now, this is a cinema camera which can do RAW up to 6K, which fundamentally consumes battery like there is no tomorrow. Like you would be lucky to get 1 whole hour of continuous footage. Like you'll be very lucky. Now, many times shooting can go easily like 2-3 hours a day. So in those sort of scenario, having this battery grip is awesome. And because the internal battery is untouched, it will drain the other two first. Now, what does that mean? That simply means you could literally hot swap batteries. It's like, oh, these two batteries are dead, no problem, just open the caddy, remove the tray, replace the battery with newly freshly charged one, plug it back in, everything is awesome, don't even think about it. So that's a very huge upgrade for many people. Just that, specifically people who are not relying on giant V-mount batteries or things of that nature, they are like, dude, shut up and take my money just for this. Then we have come to another aspect, their display. While they do know the fact that you need big display, they do know the fact that, like, that 3-inch display, which is like actually 2.4 inches, is just not good enough. They did give 5 inches screen, just it wasn't locked. Now they still did not improve it to 100% where they would have flip out screen, but this is better than nothing. And there's very good reason for basically having this tilt, simply because this camera is controlled by touchscreen. So you have to have access to this. Now imagine this way, this was put into a cradle where you have lenses, body and battery here. Now that means how the heck you have to go down and then you have to do like this and to touch the screen. That's very difficult. Just flip it out and just make sure there is enough space between battery and this, so you not only you can see the system, you can operate the camera much more efficiently. Awesome. Now every Tom, Dick and Harry would have loved if they had a flip out screen, and I have no goddamn idea why they did not do that, because this was completely re-engineered stuff, but God help them. And they also have now optional EVF for outdoors viewing. Now the EVF is optional. That simply means if you buy this camera, do not expect that you're gonna get it. However, if you need it, you can buy this. Now you may be like, why the heck is it an optional? Well, think of it this way, many people are used to seeing a screen system, so they will not be comfortable with viewfinders, but viewfinders are still an integral part of it. Like heck, you see RE, you see Red, you will see people with viewfinders. Not every Tom, Dick and Harry is using it. And like, what is the image of a producer? What is the image of a cinematographer? Like, we are always assuming they're looking like this, and they are doing that in most times. So viewfinder is really awesome. And not to mention, when you're doing handheld, doing it this way gives you 2 advantages. First, in broad sunlight, A viewfinder will always beat out any screen. Second, it also gives you 3 points of contact. So not only you are holding your camera lens, your camera body, and you have a third point of contact. That makes it very stable. So that's for run and gun kind of scenario, that's more than good enough. And they have now built-in ND filter. For many people, that's just it. Shut up and take my money. Now, why ND filters inside a camera is far more important than having ND filters for your lenses? Well, because lenses come in different sizes, sizes, and varieties. What does that mean? That simply means their front size elements changes a lot. And the only way to compensate the way basically cinema industry, that they have huge ND plates. They have like giant, huge ND plates. So no matter what lens you buy, the diameter generally is smaller than that. But most of the time, people are coming from photography world. They will be like, they will go broke because like, okay, this lens, this has like a 77mm diameter. This lens has 82mm diameter. So you get the point. Basically, every lens will need its own custom scenario. But if it's in camera itself, which many professional cameras do, it gives them the advantage that every lens you mount, you have the ND filter in there. You don't want to use it, move it up. You want to use it there. It's always there in body, ready to go, no problem about it. So that's a really good feature. The only camera company that can even exceed this is basically Sony, because they use electronic ND. So you don't even have that basically swapping effect where it's like, okay, switch 1, switch 2, switch 3. It's like it can actually act as a control for Sony case, because they can electronically control it. So they can control the shutter speed, aperture, and ISO and ND. So Sony is like the only one that can go ahead, but this is really good for many people. The battery management improvement, the screen tilting part, and the fact that the screen is much brighter now. It should be much more easy to see in outdoors. And an inbuilt ND, people are like, shut up and take my money. That's it. Like for this only, shut up and take my money, because there was no complaint about the raw performance, the image sensors and all that jazz. It was like, it was more than good enough. For the price, it was damn awesome, simply because it was almost touching red, almost touching RE and all that jazz. So be mindful, this camera is a kind of a niche kind of tool. So it's not for every Tom, Dick and Harry. So for whom this kind of camera is, basically whoever is not looking for a hybrid camera. If you're like, I will do some photography, some videography, do not even think about it. Don't even the price is very compelling, do not think about that. And this is a pro level cinema camera. What does that mean? That simply means don't even think about autofocus, don't even think about in-body image stabilization, don't even think about those things. And because of the pro codecs and raw codecs, most people are not familiar with how huge raw files are. Basically your 2TB hard drive, lol. That's just that, lol. Because people actually have to buy USB 3.2 or like USB 4 almost, basically SSDs that are able to read and write at 1 GB per second to edit these sort of footages. These puppies are huge. Most people do not have a context or even understanding how big the raw files are or ProRes are. So you have to understand this like before buying this, because the price is like low enough where people are like, I can afford that. But like the moment you look at the, wait a minute, how many hard drives do I have to buy to just, you know, let's say edit a 3-hour long movie shoot? Good luck with that. So is this suitable for wedding photography? You can do that if you are skilled enough, you have the supporting hardware, you can do that. It's not impossible. It's just like it's not right tool for that kind of job. But if you are a movie student, or if you are a person looking for making short movies or ad contents, or basically things where you are like, dude, I need to absolutely control this, I need to absolutely grade the footage the way I want it, in those students this camera will shine. And to make that experience much more palatable, this comes with pro license of DaVinci Resolve. Now DaVinci Resolve DaVinci Resolve started from day one, and they were always light years ahead of every other options in terms of color grading. People were like, dude, I'm gonna edit in Premiere and I'm gonna color grade in DaVinci Resolve. That was from day one. There was no competition there. But slowly over time, DaVinci started to upgrade itself, and my whole basically my brother itself is running his YouTube channel just relying on DaVinci Resolve, and many people have finally ditched Premiere utilizing this, because this is actually good enough where it's like, dude, it's a complete video editor. You can do color grading, you can do most amazing noise removal out there, and you can do all that in one software package. So that's really awesome. Now be very mindful, if you directly look at the footage that comes out of the camera will not be flattering. You have to put some love into it. That is why this software package is also awesome. And given the fact that it's a pro license, lifelong license, it's for many people just that. It's like, dude, I'm gonna buy a camera and I have a pro license with it. Awesome, right there, shut up and take my money. So be mindful, this is not for like, you know, quote unquote average Joe or quote unquote just dabbling in the video. You can afford this, but does not mean you can afford what it requires to run. So what about the competition? Well, if you really want the resolution, you can go for Canon R5. And if you are coming from a cinema kind of background, you are used to doing in, like, short bursts. In those sort of scenario, R5 should able to last you long enough, and it can do 8K raw, so flat out much higher resolution and all that jazz. It also has autofocus, and in body image stabilization. Canon's in body image stabilization is really good. So flat out, for many people, this would be much better suited for those people who are looking for that, highest resolution and highest bit rate. But what if you are looking for something more tangible, something more digestible? For those sort of people, A7S3 would be more than good enough, simply because it's 4K, so it's not over bloated. It's like it will not consume your hard drive like there is no tomorrow, and it's also 10-bit. So most cameras are 8-bit. Now 8-bit is way too limited because color simply translates to basically 255 levels of colors. That's not deep enough. The color gradation is not deep enough in those sort of scenario. But the moment you go to 10-bit, that translates to 1024. You only added 22 bits, but now you have 1024 levels of gradients, and because it multiplies with RGB, your color capability goes YOLO. So in those sort of scenario, it is more than good enough. You may think like, oh, 10-bit is not that good. No, 10-bit is enough to get Netflix approval, so be mindful of that. That's more than good enough. And it has one of the most amazing low light performance. Like, you don't think about this. Like, if you have this camera and you're having low light issue, either your lens sucks or you suck. There is no other option. So autofocus, and the fact that it does not have IBUS, because people are more that's why I said, like, competition is hitting up, and people are get like, hey, I want this also, I want that also, I want this also. It's like, in those sort of scenarios, not having IBUS, that simply means you have to buy extra gimbal, which is big, bulky, and expensive, and not to mention you have to figure out how the heck you're gonna charge all those things at the same time. So that's a very weak weakness, specifically for people who are looking for something, quick turnarounds and all that just. And the final problem, like, even if you have the most amazing color depth out there, even if you have the most amazing colorist out there, you can't fight versus the final issue, that is full frame versus Super 35. That is like full frame versus APS-C. What does that translate to? That translates to, you can't really get very shallow depth of field. Now, to give you a context of that, the most shallow depth of field I have seen in a movie, like extreme case, it is done in Zack Snyder end scene. Basically, Batman and Joker are talking, and you can see Joker is like in focus, and he pulls out a basically card from his mouth, and is like, dude, his card is in focus, but his face is out of focus. Doing that on a small sensor, good luck with that. And you can't do that with in this puppy, simply because you have to find some weird speed booster that fits inside the mount, because in mirrorless mount you can put a full frame camera and a speed booster to get some performance back, but you can't compete against that. So flat out, if you want to achieve that kind of ludicrously shallow depth of field, the only way to achieve that is utilizing full frame, or sometimes IMAX, which is 70mm. So you have to do something that equivalent in order to get something that that mind-bogglingly sharp. And you can't like, basically you can remove shallow depth of field, but you can't add it. So be very mindful. So competitions are heating up, and I will be very careful in suggesting that. It's like, this camera is good camera, but not for everybody. It's like, it's a very good camera for a person who's looking for cinema itself. It's not looking for vlogging, not looking for YouTube's things or that. No. Can you do YouTube out of it? Absolutely. It's just your pipeline would be much longer, and you may not get the benefit out of it. So this was my presentation on basically Blackmagic 6K Pro pocket cinema camera. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike. Press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment, because I try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.